Hey, why is it that some really top performers, people who are accomplishing great things in different industries, whether it's sports or business or entertainment or any other industry for that matter, why is it that they turn out to be such terrible spouses? Not necessarily terrible people, but really not very good in their marriages or relationship lives. There are some reasons for it, and I want to talk to you about why it is. What makes them struggle in these very private relationships when they have such extraordinary private success? That's what this episode is all about. My name is Rod Harrison. I am a relationship expert, executive marriage coach. I help people who are really top performers in their field, whether it's sports or business or entertainment. I help them reduce relationship stress in their lives, increase their productivity in their chosen field, and improve the precious relationships in their lives. Sometimes that's a spouse, sometimes it's a significant other, oftentimes it's even with children. And so that's what we're all about. And so I want to jump into this episode because I think it's a really, really important topic. Why is it that sometimes great people, high performers, very successful, well to do people can be not so good spouses? And we've seen it across industries. You don't have to read the news very long before you start getting wind of some of the challenges. Having been in work with NFL athletes for a lot of years, and also now with Major League Baseball, people in the business world who are achieving great things, we find that they oftentimes struggle with their relationship lives. So I want to give you four things. If that's you, by the way, I really want you to take some time and think about what you're hearing in this video. I want you to write some notes because it can be insightful for you. I want to reiterate the fact that being a terrible spouse doesn't mean that you're a terrible person. But if your spouse or your significant other or your children are experiencing you as a terrible person because of your inability to manage relationships, then you will come across to them as a terrible person. No judgment on my part. So let me break down four areas of this topic that will be helpful to you. The first is high performers tend to be very hyper focused. Very hyper focused. What do you mean by hyper focused? That means they're very focused on their success. You don't get to the top without having an extraordinary ability to focus. And that focus is oftentimes hyper. In other words, you are developed in your field or in your pursuit to your success. You're developed to sort of push out all the other things that are considered secondary or ancillary, because there's such a focus on achieving and being successful. That hyper focus is not always the fault of the person who is pursuing success. What do you mean by that, Rod? What I mean by that is sometimes the hyper focus is driven by the industry. A lot of the clients that I work with in professional sports in particular talk about the stress, the extraordinary stress that they are carrying and managing because of the demands of the industry, especially when they're in the middle of the seasons. But nowadays, that extends beyond the regular season, beyond the pursuit of playoff and championship success. It follows them all throughout the year because the demands are high, and this race to win requires that they be focused, that they be on almost all the time. And what can happen is they can begin to see their spouse, their significant other, their children as sort of a hindrance, even in competition with their success. And I hear players oftentimes say, why can't my spouse just understand what I'm going through? And why can't they just stay out of the way? And oftentimes spouses will say, I just try to stay out of the way so that my spouse, who is earning great money and pursuing success that the whole family will share in, so that he or she can just do his or her thing. And that's understandable on some levels, but that hyper focus means that you can't focus on the very significant needs of building great relationships. It's hard to have a dream marriage when you don't focus on it, because what you obsess about is what comes about. What you focus on is what you get. And I don't mean this as a judgment, I mean this as sort of an unveiling. And so oftentimes when I'm working with clients in professional sports in particular, sometimes in business or in entertainment, I have to remind them that they were shaped by this need to be hyper focused because it's what the industry required. And I remind spouses that you're not the enemy. Sometimes the industry becomes the enemy, but they oftentimes miss that. Well, let me give you another reason, because there's oftentimes a big gap in emotional development. I've been working with athletes for a long time, on the collegiate level, on the NFL level, Major League Baseball, across sports. And what I found is the environment shapes us. And this is true in business as well. Like me, my pursuit was academic. And so I didn't, I was like a bull in a china shop. I was just trying to succeed with no emotional awareness. I was so underdeveloped emotionally. And this is what happens to a lot of us. So we don't know how to really be aware of ourselves emotionally. We don't know how to be aware of others emotionally. We don't know how we come into the room. And so that lack of emotional awareness leads to the inability, oftentimes, to be empathetic or empathic toward your spouse. And so when there's no emotional, or very little emotional awareness and emotional development, you can succeed in your field. You can be a high performer, and the crowds will celebrate you, coaches will celebrate you, organizations will celebrate you, the money celebrates you. Somebody help me talk right now. And it reinforces that it's okay to not be emotionally mature. And I forget my coach saying to me, "Hey, you are a great guy, but you are emotionally immature." I said, "Man, I'm paying you all this money to tell me that I'm emotionally immature?" He said, "Hey, I'm not taking a shot at you. It's just a statement that you have lacked the development of your life emotionally." And this is why I think it's so important that every person who wants to succeed spend some time getting focused on emotional development, emotional intelligence, emotional awareness is a part of that. And when you do that, you become much more balanced and much more aware of your spouse, aware of the people you're in relationship with, what they need emotionally, and how you can contribute to it. And so I want to encourage you, I want to challenge you to begin to see the emotional part of your life not as something that's not important, but to see it as something that it could really change the game, literally, right? The Harvard Business Review released an article, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, where they talked about how the biggest and best companies in America are no longer simply hiring people because of their skill sets. Because what they realize is that if executives show up to work without emotional intelligence, emotional awareness, the ability to engage people emotionally, and the ability to lead emotionally, including to lead themselves emotionally, then they would be a liability to the company and hinder its success. And I wonder how many of you, as high performers, are a liability to your own success, at least in the private space of your marriage or love relationships. So those are two of the reasons. Hey, we're going to come back to the rest of this. I got so much more to say to you, but I want you to check this out because I have a gift for you. Hey, before we continue with this episode, I want to invite you to make sure you grab the free workshop that I've prepared. just for those who stop by this channel. It's called the Happy Marriage Workshop, and it's just for you. The Happy Marriage Workshop is really built around my 6 stage process for helping couples achieve their dream marriage. And I want you to have it for free. This is the same material that I take my multi-millionaire clients through, and they're getting extraordinary breakthroughs. And so I want you to enjoy the workshop. Thank you so much for stopping by. Let's get back to the episode. All right. I hope you will enjoy that Happy Marriage Workshop. So, we're talking about why is it that oftentimes top performers are terrible spouses? Again, we said they're not terrible people, but their ways and abilities or lack thereof in relationships can really hinder their dreams for marriage and relationship success, even though they are succeeding in their field, whether it's sports or business or entertainment or medicine or academics, whatever it might be. If you're a top performer, you can miss a lot. Here's a next reason: huge egos slash low self-esteem. Huge egos slash low self-esteem. Now, when we say huge egos, I'm not talking about egomaniacism, right? Some people are egomaniacs, right, out of control, but I don't think that's the case for everyone. Sometimes we have huge egos. Well, let me talk to you about what an ego is. An ego simply is an identity that you desire to carry. It's a way you want people to see you. It's a way that you want people to encounter you. And that ego we can cherish. Like, I want to be seen as successful. I want to be seen as valuable. I want to be seen as smart. I want to be seen as capable. I want to be seen as a great dresser. I want to be seen for the cars that however you want to be seen is a function of your ego. And oftentimes top performers have big egos, which leads me to the other part of this, which is oftentimes these huge egos, this sort of obsession with being seen in the right light, is tied to low self-esteem. I know you don't have to agree with me. Some of you are probably like, I got a big ego. I don't see anything wrong with it. My point exactly, because you don't see what's wrong with it, right? Again, it doesn't make you a bad person necessarily, but it's insufficient funds for a great relationship, because great relationships call for great humility. Great relationships call for being gracious. They call for being able to see beyond yourself. And so often when I'm working with top performers, they can't see anything more than they see themselves and how they're being seen and what they want to portray. And it's often tied to painful issues along the way in their lives, so that whatever painful issue, whether it was bullying or abuse or neglect, being abandoned, we oftentimes try to substitute what we get good at for what we lacked in our development. Not just because of you, but oftentimes because of the parenting situation, the environment of home, right? It can be a number of things that happen that were beyond your control. But when you begin to receive applause or you get good in one area, there's a tendency not only to hyper-focus in that area, but to develop your ego around success in that area. And what happens with the issue that sort of promoted your being seen in the area of your success is it becomes sort of set by the wayside, so that it's never addressed, it's never really focused on, it's never really quite healed. And that's the key. If you heal what was broken, then success doesn't have to become a substitute to fix it. Did I say that too fast? If you focus on healing what was broken, then success in your field doesn't have to become a substitute. So oftentimes I meet people who are very successful, very academic, very capable athletically and in business, but have some challenge in the background that we have to work on, so that they begin to heal that part of their life. And that way they can be more balanced. I hope this is making sense to you because it makes a lot of sense to me, right? So often when athletes come into organizations, they are recruited for the draft, and there's an entire worksheet done up on them trying to understand their background, their life, their family of origin challenges, and their relationship with their parents, and why they did what they did, and what about in high school, all that stuff. All that stuff is a part of the story because they're trying to figure out how can they balance success even though they got broken nests. That's rhyming. I didn't even know it. Y'all come on and go with me on that, right? And you're probably like that yourself. Most of us are because we succeed in spite of what we've been through. In fact, some people say, I don't look like what I've been through. Just give it enough time. You'll start looking like what you've been through, and your success can start looking like a mess. Have you read the news lately? Do you watch social media? You've seen the stories, and I don't want to point people out. I'm just saying, when we develop egos, it is often paired with low self-esteem because of areas of our lives that have gone unhealed. All right. So what do? You got to explore the missing pieces in your life. You got to explore what hurt me then is still hurting me now. I just sort of get to push it away because I'm succeeding, because I'm climbing, because I'm getting that paper, I'm making money, and I'm getting applause, and I've got a place in a special environment as someone who's a go-to lady or guy because of my success. And that's why we're seeing a lot of athletes who are athletes in particular, but also people in the business world and entertainment world are saying, I got to deal with some of these challenges in my life. Can I just suggest to you that that's why this kind of coaching is available so that you can balance it out? You don't want to be a great success, but a terrible spouse. You want to be a great success publicly and a great success privately. And I believe it's possible for you. I believe it's altogether possible just for you. So you want to learn how to show up for work, balanced. You want to learn how to show up home, balanced and present. And so I just want to encourage you to get some coaching. But I hope that those 4 things were helpful to you to help you understand what in fact is going on. So, hey, as we wind down again, I want to remind you about the Happy Marriage Workshop that we talked about earlier. Make sure you get that. It's a free resource for you. And you might even be interested in my Dream Marriage Masterclass, which is the full Monty, if you will, of the Happy Marriage Workshop. It's just for you. There's a link there. Let me just tell you that it costs less than the cost of 2 therapy sessions, but it's packed with great stuff that will help you begin to work through in your own time in this online program, right? That you have control over, right? In your own time, begin to work through some of these challenges that might have you struggling in your private space, in your relationship life. Hey, I'm Rod Harrison. I'm so glad that you were here, and I hope you got great value out of this episode. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.